Adam Christ from MyMMAnews.com, and I am being joined by Hurricane Gene Kim. He is getting ready to make his return back into the ring after almost a year, ladies and gentlemen. He is taking on Greg Pritchett at Gut Check Championship Series. It's going down Saturday, May 20th at the Greater Boys and Girls Club of Bear, Delaware. And it's exclusively on fightclubtv.com. That is FCLTV.com. I know that is a complete mouthful, so let me just welcome my guest, Hurricane Gene. This is our first time talking on air. We talk often at the fights. I always see you snapping the pictures, but it is an honor to get to talk to you finally and interview my brother before fight time. What's up?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I really appreciate you having me. I know you're a big part of the regional scene, so for me to be on here, that means a lot.
Oh, dude, what you do means a lot too, because not only are you a training partner, you help your training partners in the gym. You volunteer and you do such good work with your snapping of the pictures. I mean, follow this guy's photography, ladies and gentlemen. Do yourself a favor. He is fantastic when he's snapping pictures. And then he's a fighter on top of it. So quite the busy man and involved in the fight community. So you're taking a step away from the lens for this fight, getting back in the ring in almost a year, I believe, right?
Yeah. It's just short of 1 year. Yep.
Yeah. So I got to ask, man, you had a little bit of time off. I believe there was an accident involved, but no
hmm
real harm, no real injuries. Just take some time to get everything good to go. How does it feel to get back to punching people in the face?
Yeah, I mean, I think the injury sometimes when you have to take time off, it's a blessing in disguise in some ways because that allows you to kind of review what you've been doing, what's been working, what's not might be working. But overall, like, yeah, I gave my body time to heal, and I think that was the most important part. Not burning out my mind in the sense that, of course, this is important to me, and I love what I do, but at the end of the day, I come to terms with the fact that this is just one of the many things I do in life.
Mm,
Yeah, so once I came to the realization, it's like, hey, like, I do this because my body so allows me to. you know, and
mm.
that's a privilege that a lot of people don't have. So it's like once I kind of reminded myself of that, that kind of allowed me to shift like my gear regarding training, just being grateful. Yeah, not in a like any generic manner, but like actually like every time I step into the gym, it's like, hey, like I get to train, I get to be better. Yeah.
So in that, I mean, almost like a year off. I know you've been in the gym. You've been consistently refining your game plans, and I'm not game plans, but your game overall. Now you finally have a game plan. So finally getting back into fight camp. Is it how are the nerves? How are the feelings getting back into the grit of things?
Yeah, so I worked hard last camp, and I don't take anything away from Nate, my last opponent. He's a game guy. And I think for me, it was more about accommodating and catering things towards what I do. So I think last camp I started lifting more, started doing weight training, but I put so much emphasis on that took me away from realizing that the weight training should be supplementary to my fighting, not the other way around.
Mm,
And this camp, I went to the people who are more knowledgeable than me, who's been in the game longer than me, and just who have more resources to not, regimens or science that I might not be prone to knowing. So I went to them and I was like, hey, I'm gonna start this camp like 3 months out because I want to take this serious. And then they gave me pretty much a whole 12-week program. And obviously, when it comes to strength, I'll go to that person. And then for someone I want to improve my cardio stamina, I'll go to that person. Stuff like that. And yeah, that's a part of being an amateur, or even as I know a lot of professionals, like they have day jobs. So that's just the hard part of like trying to accommodate the time and consolidate things so I can keep the training consistent.
mm. When you finally got the name Greg Pritchett, I mean, former kickboxing amateur world champion, obviously a name he hasn't had a fight in a while, but obviously a name in the scene that is known. Was that a name that it woke you up? Did it mean anything to you? How do you feel about this matchup?
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't help but smile because it's a good fight for me. It's a good fight, period. The fact that I get to fight someone who's probably been fighting longer than I've been training, but that gives me an extra motivation in the sense that uh it's an opportunity for me to test myself and prove myself, not to anybody else but me. Knowing that, yeah, and this camp, the more work you put in, it's kind of like cashing in the ATM. So it's like that feeling of the confidence and the conviction builds with work, and I could only do that because I knew that Greg is a good opponent, and it takes a good opponent. Um, and not that I overlook my past opponents, but I think for some people, it's they have to kind of like play the minimalize their opponent game and tell them that they're not better than they are. But for me, I think it excites me when I know that there's a good opponent, so that's an opportunity for me to showcase my own growth and my own skills.
I love it. Now, again, it's been some time since Greg's been in the ring. I know it's been almost a year for you, but it's been less time for you since your last bout. Do you anticipate? I mean, I'm not saying you're banking on it, but do you think there might be a little bit of ring rust on his side?
I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I am an out of towner. I'm actually originally from North Carolina, so I actually am not too familiar with the fight scene as I would like to be. So I know Greg's a stud, and he's also a gentleman. Like every time I've worked like the events or just walked around, he's always been very cordial, actually. And because I don't really know the scene here, I never even knew that Greg, the third, is Greg's son. And
Oh,
until
really? So all the
yeah,
times
until
at the fights.
until like I put two and two together, I was like, oh, he's his son. So that was a pleasant surprise.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's part of the game. It's I respect him, but that's part of the fight game. Just no matter who, like we can be friends after, but
Mm.
we got to go now.
Well, I mean, that also speaks volumes for you and your skill set. I mean, Greg has the accolades that he has. He's a game opponent as he is, and he's coming back and looking to test his skill against somebody solid. You were the name. So I mean, that's got to be a good feeling within itself. I mean, you're calling somebody out to fight, so it's like that bittersweet thing, but they believe in your skill as much as you're seeing their skill.
Yeah, and for me, that perception of how my opponent sees me shouldn't dictate how I see myself. If that makes
Mm.
sense.
Hmm.
Yeah, and but it takes two to tango. So my skill can only be proven by the skill of the person standing across from me.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think every time I've had an opportunity to go against someone more experienced who's been doing it longer, maybe they're just more athletic, whoever, what it is, uh, it's always made me better. Always made me better. And last couple fights, I know that there are certain things that I could have worked more on in hindsight and just worked not harder per se, harder, yes, but in a more intelligent manner.
Mm.
And now I'm starting to figure out what works. I think there's a certain flow in my training now, and obviously that's gonna change and grow over time. But right now, I'm doing in the moment doing what I can best. And my camp's been good to me. The guys that I work with, sparring partners, training partners, they've been good to me. And yeah, I'm excited. I get to fight someone who I know is a game opponent.
Mm.
And ah, that excites me.
That's awesome. Are you looking to stay more? I mean, obviously, it's not looking past Greg, but are you looking to stay more active now that you have this bout back to, just being in the gym, back to regular things? Are you looking to stay more active this year?
Yeah, so I like a decade after first hearing that quote, I always think about it more recently than ever. Like GSP has this old quote about, I don't consider myself a fighter because fighters have to get ready.
Mhm.
So he says I consider myself a martial artist because they're always ready. They don't
Mm.
have to get ready. So I'm not calling myself one or the other, but you see guys fluctuate a lot between camps, and then the first month and a half is just like it becomes like a weight loss program instead of an actual training camp, you know. And
Yeah.
so I know that I've been doing much better about just with diet overall and just having better moderation in everything. I know on certain days if I feel that I haven't gotten enough rest or if I felt too much in pain, then I'll give myself the rest and I listen to myself more.
And I
Yeah.
mean, you have yourself to listen to, but you also have the better half to listen to. As I understand, you were
Hmm.
recently married. Congratulations, my man.
Thank you.
So that
Yeah.
is I guess this is a long time coming, and what a gorgeous come together. It was long distance for a while, right? Just tell
Mm.
me how this blossomed.
Yeah. So yeah, it's actually her birthday. So happy
Hey,
birthday.
happy
Yeah.
birthday!
Yeah. Um, yeah, so we met in North Carolina and back where I grew up and we just met and she was visiting seasonally, and then she just happened to go back and we decided to keep things going and eventually we decided we want to be together. And she of course yeah, I think that's what stood her out from all the other people. I'm sure there's a lot of good people out there, but her specifically speaking in this case, like she supported what I do, not because she saw some uh magnificent talent or like, because I was already an accomplished athlete or whatever, but because she saw that I was passionate about it.
Mm,
And she saw how yeah, I moved to Philadelphia. I moved to Philadelphia for my training. Like that's it.
yeah.
A lot of people don't know, but that, my coach Ryan Kim Kafar, like he's a big reason for why I moved here. And I know I'm in the right place where I have that right soil, right sunlight, like right, water, everything. Just I have to home. The rest is up to me. And in her case, like yeah, she's been more than supportive, like understanding, and yeah, helping me become a better practitioner, student, fighter, person. Yeah,
Mm.
and I think it's a cyclical cycle. It's like the better you understand yourself, like outside of the ring, then I can actually become better in the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The outside people that help make you a better person. I
Hmm.
mean, it couldn't be more beautiful. And I also want to go down another segue here. Just you brought the man up, so we got to give a shout out to our good friend, the Korean Thunder, Ryan Kim Kafaro. I want to talk about that dynamic because I know you guys are friends, and I know you guys share quite the dynamic between coach and student. So, what is it about you two? I mean, Ryan, he gets in there and he's a hell of a fighter, always entertaining. But on top of that, he is a fantastic coach, one of the best in the area. So I
Hmm.
want to talk about that dynamic.
Yeah. So I mean, it's hard to be. It's not really a secret, that it's hard to be a good fighter and also a instructor slash coach or trainer at the same time because if you want to be world class in anything or just like elite, you just have to dedicate your given time to that. But I guess in his case, it worked out that it's in the same field. Um, yeah, and funny enough, uh, my friend back in North Carolina, Adley Edwards, he's originally from Columbus, Ohio, but they actually fought in cage fury like 6, 7 years ago.
Oh wow.
And this is in the earlier years of my training being kind of regained. And so when they actually first fought 7 years ago, I didn't even know who Ryan was.
Hmm.
I was like, oh, he's a guy from Philly. That's all I knew him as. But
Right.
several years later, I kind of going along Instagram, I find him, and I was like, hey, this is the same guy that Adley fought. And he had a portrait where I think you remember. He got his head split open because he goes in for a takedown.
Blood
Guy catches
streaming
a
down his
shin on him.
face. Yeah.
he still takes him down and then finishes him with guillotine. But
Yep.
yeah, it's that one where yeah, I decided to do a mural in one of those like expression tunnels at Duke University in Durham. And yeah, that one kind of blew up, and I had the chance to visit him for his Ring of Combat fight, and he fought Tim, the Jaguar.
Mm.
And I was actually in DC at this time. Uh, yeah, and this is around the time that I've actually kind of made it more intentional in my what's left of my more youthful years that hey, I want to take this serious, but at the same time, I think I was still a bit of wandering, and I found out about the fight, and I actually got an invitation from him and his mother, who's Korean, and they invited me out to the fight, and I got to yeah shadow Ryan for like the last few days of his camp. Uh, Even ended up like unintentionally cutting weight just because I was like, well, I'm here, so I guess I'll cut weight. Yeah, I'll get into sauna.
That sounds like a not a good time. Who wants to cut who wants to cut weight just for the hell
Yeah,
of
yeah.
it?
I was like, I guess I'll chill here with you. Yeah, so that's kind of how it went, and so I got to see how athletes, competitors, and fighters of the higher levels kind of finish their camp and just kind of go about their professionalism, you know. And I got to see how things work. And I was at the fight, and he lost that one, but you know, I gave him a big hug. You know, I don't even remember what I said. I was like, probably something along the lines of, "Hey, you're a stud. It doesn't matter." You know?
Right.
And
Words of encouragement.
yeah, whatever it may have been, you know, I got blessings from like him and the whole family that you know, whenever I wanted to come back to Philly, I would help find footing. And a year later, after that, with the whole COVID thing happened, and I was not in a very sound or stable like financial footing in DC, so they forced me to go back to North Carolina, and I floated between like two friends who were generous enough with their, you know, space to let me stay with them. And I think I got to a point where I didn't enjoy it, not because only after I left North Carolina for Philly I realized how much I loved it,
Mm.
but it wasn't so much that I didn't like the place, but more so I could feel the time running out on myself. I'm not like Greg, you know. I didn't have a father as a fighter as a father, you
Right.
know. I don't come from a martial family. As a matter of fact, just like yeah, most parents like they wouldn't want their son to be a fighter, you know.
Yeah.
But I took inspiration from Ryan because
Hmm.
you know his mother was also against it, but I think he made it clear to her that hey, this is like my passion, this is what I do, and
Hmm.
it would make things easier, and I would love it too if you support me in that sense. And actually, it took me a couple of years of moving to Philly to admit to my mother that I moved here for fighting. But yeah, and
How did that conversation go?
um, in the sense that yeah, wasn't easy to
Hmm.
bring it up with her, but
Hmm.
I think that's when I first realized and reaffirmed to myself like how important it is to me because just coming from the immigrant culture and just like the culture that I was raised into, it's like it's a lot about you know honoring your parents or kind of catering to what they want, but perhaps because I realized how much I love it that it's one of this might be the first thing and the only thing and one of the few things in my life where I'm willing to be selfish for myself. It's like,
Hmm.
hey, like this is for me, yeah.
Hmm.
And so she's like, hey, well, you know, don't get hurt and take care of yourself, and that was that, you know. Uh, and but you know, back to Ryan, like he, so thanks to that, like we've been able to keep a very, he's like a big brother to me, you know, in that
Yeah.
sense. Like he gives me advice on whenever I ask him, and you know, just he's an open book. If I ask him something, he's always available to give his knowledge and wisdom. And because he's out there, since as a teenager, training with these like world class guys out in Catones, and a lot of the UFC guys that are famous from this area, they all know him. So it's like, he himself, he's within that reach,
Oh yeah.
and just getting to work. It's not many people can say they can spar with their coach or they can work with their coach. Their coach is willing to give their not just time but actual body to
Hmm.
work. And yeah, just and he himself came back from like a like for most people would have been a career-ending injury with his
Yeah.
knee, but I got to see close up like how he brought himself back, and that was also like a big affirmation to me. It was like, hey, like, well, what excuse do I have?
Mm.
Everybody has injuries. Everybody has certain ailments they might be dealing with, but um, I'm never going to be in my 20s again,
Right.
you know? And I knew that maybe if I was like still 22, 23, I'll be like, maybe I could stay down south and just, earn my keep and earn my stripes, kind of get through time. But I don't have that luxury like other guys do,
Right.
and neither do I have that wrestling pedigree that like these Jersey guys do, nor do I. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, like I didn't get to start as young as I wanted, but that's a woulda, coulda, shoulda story. Nobody wants to hear that. Like,
Mm.
I'm here because I made a promise to myself that I'm gonna go as far as I can manage and I can able. Yeah, and
Well,
Ryan's been a crucial part of that. Like, yeah, just not just from a technical standpoint, but from a mental standpoint. Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's all going down on May 20th. How do you see the bout going? Obviously, I'm not asking for a game plan, but are you
Hmm.
going to be one of those with do you know how you're going to Babe Ruth call your shot? Do you know what when you're going to finish the bout? What a bold prediction do you
Well,
have
I'm not
for
gonna call
me?
any rounds. I'm no, yeah.
No
I'm not a
Mystic
magician
Mac
like
for
that.
me?
Yeah, if I'm being 100% honest, I'm fighting the promoter's son, so I can't let it get to decision.
Mm,
I have to go for the finish, but I'm also not gonna rush myself.
mm.
Yeah, just like yeah, I'll see it and I'll take it when the opportunity's there.
Well, I
Yeah.
cannot wait to see it, man. And I will see you there. I will be right there in the center of the ring making your introduction once again. It'll be an absolute pleasure, just like it's been a pleasure talking to you today, man. Gene, I appreciate everything you do as far as the photography that you do for not just me, but all the fighters and the promoters that you work for in the area. It doesn't go unnoticed. It's wonderful work. Everybody follow the man's photography. It's fantastic. And he's about to put on a show for everybody on May 20th at Gut Check Championship Series. You can check it out on Fight Club Live TV. That is FCLTV.com.